Hi everyone, thanks for joining me once again on this Saturday morning. It's story time once again. 3 viewer stories that have been sent in to me. The last one is very, very short, but I thought I'd just tag it on the end as the guy took the trouble to send it in to me, as it were. So if you're thinking about coming to Thailand right now, just before we get into the stories, I've got to warn you, it's very, very hot at the moment. We're coming into May next week and it's horrendous. Just I walked across the road to the 7-Eleven this morning to get some bread, milk, that sort of thing, and by the time I got back I was already sweating. So very, very hot, and we are coming into the rainy season next month, so be warned, you can still have fun out here, but be prepared, it's going to be very hot. All right, okay, I'm not a weatherman, I'm here to tell stories. Let's get on with these 3 stories.
สวัสดีค่ะ
After watching your channel for a few months already, I wanted to share with you my first Thailand experience that includes a couple of good stories of friendship, girls, ladyboys and passports. My name is Lewis and I am from a Latin American country. Because I grew up playing video games and Street Fighter 2, I had always been curious about martial arts and the far countries from the Far East. So in 2008, when I was in my mid-20s, I went on a 2-month holiday to Asia with the intention to spend 1 month in Japan and 1 month in Thailand. Japan was beautiful and very modern and clean, but to be honest, after spending the 30 days I had planned, I was ready to leave. I consider myself a pretty friendly guy, and I even learned some Japanese only for this trip. But the only Japanese people I talked to were the convenience store clerks at the 7-Eleven stores. If it wasn't for the other foreigners I met at the hostels, this would have been a pretty lonely Japanese trip. I wanted to tell you that because when I went to Thailand, wow, what a difference. Random friendly people smiling and talking to me on the street or on the SkyTrain, kids waving at me and even trying to hold my hand. It was a complete 180 between those 2 Asian countries. Wonderful. On my first day in Bangkok, I went to a nearby restaurant to have lunch, and when the waitress came to take my order, I noticed she was a ladyboy. But she wasn't like the ones I had read about. This one was clearly a man with long hair and silicone. I remember I had read some forums where guys had said it was difficult to tell if a girl was really a ladyboy or not. In my case, I always thought it was because they were drunk, and since I don't drink any alcohol, it was going to be pretty easy for me to tell them apart. Anyway, after a week of travelling around the north, I decided to take a short trip to Cambodia to see Angkor Wat. On my way back, the bus I was supposed to take broke down, and the company told us they would bring some pickup trucks to take us back to Thailand. As the trucks came by, all the foreigners jumped on with their big backpacks and sat on the back of the trucks. The roads were very bad and dusty, and it was very sunny, so I told the guy in charge that I'd paid for a bus and there was no way in hell I was going to sit in the back of a pickup truck all the way back to Thailand. A Canadian guy called Pat heard me and also started telling the guy he wanted a bus. In the end, everyone had left and it was only the 2 of us and the 2 Chinese girls. So the guy got tired of our complaints and got us a car. On the way back, me and Pat got to know each other. He was a very friendly guy and told me he had been living in Bangkok with his Thai girlfriend for the past 6 months, and he even spoke Thai. When we arrived in Bangkok, he asked me if I had been to Patong yet. I told him I hadn't because I wasn't thinking about going to bars on my trip. Only temples, beaches and elephants. He proposed we went there on the next day because bar girls and discos were also part of the Thailand experience. Smiling, I agreed, so the next day we met again and went to Patong. While we were there, we went to a go-go bar and saw some girls dancing half naked. We bought a couple of lady drinks and talked to the girls for a while. It was my first time at a place like this and I felt I was in heaven. We also went to a ping pong show to see girls tossing some balls in the air and smoking, if you know what I mean. We went to another go-go bar and I noticed some of the girls on the stage were not really girls. I asked Pat about this and he confirmed that some of them were ladyboys. I was impressed because they didn't look like the waitress I had seen before. He also told me that some of the ladyboys even have surgery on their Adam's apple, so just by looking at them, there was no way to tell them apart. He said that the only surgery that is not perfect is the one on their other parts because the result is rather loose. But if this is the point when you realise you're not with a girl, I guess it was too late, haha. To prove his point, we went to another go-go bar. After we ordered some drinks, he asked me to look at the dancers and point at the ones I thought were ladyboys. I must have pointed out at 30% of them. With a smile on his face, Pat tells me, try 100%. This is a ladyboy go-go bar. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I started looking at them closely, and sometimes I really couldn't tell the difference, and I had only had 2 Sprites and a Coke. The night ended and we had lots of fun talking, fooling around with the girls and walking around the bars. At this point, Pat asked me about my itinerary because he was going to be free on the weekend, and since I like the beach, he wanted to show me a nearby city with a beach where we could have even more fun. This city was called Pattaya. We met again on Friday at noon and took the bus to this city that I'd never heard of before. After we arrived at the North bus terminal, we walked all the way down to Beach Road and then towards Walking Street. We walked past the picture of the king and Pat started asking for prices at different hotels on the small streets. Eventually we saw a cute girl at the reception of one hotel, so we went there to ask. It was cheap enough and seemed nice, so we paid for our rooms and showed our passports. The receptionist then took our passports, put them in the reception's safety box and give us our room keys. In the evening we went to Walking Street. We went to a couple of bars to start the night and then we went straight to a disco. Because I had told Pat that I'd never paid for a girl before and I didn't want to start here, so my only option was to try and pick up a girl at the disco. We arrived and I remember it was so weird for me to see people dancing by themselves, because where I come from you always dance with a partner. Pat was no exception, and he was dancing by himself on the top of a speaker to music. So I remembered I was literally on the other side of the world and I joined the solo dancing next to the other solo foreigners. At some point, Pat had left and I stayed dancing alone until I saw him dancing with a girl. He had previously agreed that if we split, we would just go back to our hotel, so I decided to go hunting too. When I was walking around, I saw many people dancing on the stage, most of them solo dancing. Among them, I saw a very cute small girl wearing a sexy skirt, so I decided to go near her to get her attention. After going to the lady boy go-go bar, I had told myself I was only going to try and pick up very short girls in order to minimize the risk. So the girl was perfect. The stage was at the same level as my shoulders. So I got very close and started to look up to try to establish eye contact. Eventually she saw me and smiled at me. And since I stayed there dancing and looking at her, she got close to the edge of the stage but didn't stop dancing. At some point her feet were right next to my head, and when she spinned around, I looked up and I noticed she wasn't wearing any underwear. This really caught my attention, but I wasn't sure of what I had seen, so I waited until the next time she spun around and looked again. Right after I confirmed my suspicions, my eyes went to her face and I noticed she had seen me looking under her skirt. Being from the West, I was expecting an angry look, but this girl looked at me with fake amazement in her eyes and then smiled again. This 2-level long distance dancing went on for a good 30 minutes until I gained my confidence back and asked her to come down off the stage and join me. She did. And after a few songs, I told her it was too late for me and I invited her to my hotel. She said yes and we went and took a taxi. When we arrived, it was about 4 a.m. We talked for some time and eventually took a shower and started kissing. I remember Pat's words, so I played around for a while and made sure she was a girl. She was. It was a green light, so we went on to the aerobics. After the deed was done, she told me she was hungry and the sun was already up. So she proposed to go out and get some breakfast. I thought this was a unique experience, was getting better and better, so we went downstairs and had some Thai breakfast on the street. After we finished, she said she wanted to go for round 2, so we went back to the room and started the aerobics again. I don't know if it was my performance was better this time, but she started to moan in a different way. Sometimes her voice was a little deeper, and this is when I started to freak out. All the images of the beautiful girls that turned out to be men came to my mind. Pat's words resonated in my head again about not being able to tell the difference. Had I been fooled? Immediately my mini-me felt scared and started to retreat. I thought about this girl's body. I felt her lips again. They were wide, but not too wide. But because she was small, right? She was a girl, wasn't she? Yes, 100%. I knew it, but her voice, why was it deep? Was she faking the whole time? In the end, I remembered the foreplay from before, made myself forget the crazy idea and was able to finish the mission. This was something I would never forget in my life. My first Thai girl. After the shower, she told me she was going to leave. I agreed because I was very tired, and this is when all was ruined. She said, "Okay, now you have to give me money." Being a Thailand newbie, I was shocked at this girl that was trying to take advantage of this tourist. After all, I had bought her breakfast. After a moment of silence, I said, "But I thought you liked me." She went from 3,000 baht to 1,000 baht, but I stood my ground. Every time I remember this, I laugh at how innocent I was. In the end, she was between angry and sad, but took her stuff and left the room. I felt somehow bad for not giving her money, but also good for keeping my score of not paying for it. Anyway, I went to sleep with a smile on my face. Saturday, I woke up around 4 p.m. and went to the beach. When I went back to the hotel, I met Pat and he told me he hadn't scored the night before and had left the disco much earlier than me. I told him my story and he laughed really hard. This is when he told me that most, if not all of the girls that go to the disco are actually bar girls that have finished their shifts and they go there to try and get another customer. And just like that, he had burst my bubble. In the evening, we set to go to the disco again because Pat was a little annoyed that I had taken a girl back with me and he, my tour guide, hadn't. So we went back to Walking Street and did the solo dancing again. But this time it was Pat who found a girl and took her back to the hotel. And me? I was walking around the floor a little scared that I would see my girl again, so I left the disco early and decided to go back to sleep because I was still a little tired from the night before. Sunday, I woke up early and went to Pat's room to invite him to have breakfast with me. I knocked on his door softly and since he didn't answer, I assumed he would still be asleep and tired from the aerobics from the night before. So I went downstairs to get some breakfast and when I reached the lobby, I saw the cute girl from the reception that I'd seen on the first day. Since it was my last day, it was all or nothing. I went to talk to her to see if she wanted to have breakfast with me. Who knows, I thought. I might get lucky. Her English was not very good, but she told me her name was Pim. When I asked her to have breakfast with me, she said she was going to another place to eat with some friends and invited me to join them. I thought, what can go wrong? So I said yes. She took my hand and we went outside. There was a pickup truck there waiting and 3 people already inside it. 2 girls and a lady boy. They were all smiling, so I decided to jump in. I greeted them and they asked me the basic questions. All was nice. We arrived to a place by the road which didn't have any walls nor a floor, but it didn't have a karaoke machine. Pim showed me to a plastic chair and she sat next to me. They brought some food and a microphone and one by one the members of the group sang some songs. To make some conversation, I told Pim I'd never eaten this food before and this is when she took a spoon, filled it with some rice and meat and fed me. I didn't know what to do, so I just went along and started chewing, feeling my face blush. She asked me if it was good and continued to feed me while she was eating as well. I looked around ashamed, but nobody was looking at me. They were all looking at the karaoke machine while I was glancing at Pim's slim body the most I could without her noticing me. It was close to the checkout time, so I told her I needed to go back soon, wishing from the bottom of my heart that I could stay one more day so I could spend it with her. After a few more songs, we jumped on the truck and went back to the hotel. Pim and I sitting together on the back seat holding hands. I tried talking to her some more, but she couldn't answer. This is when the lady boyfriend told me that her English was very bad because she was new at the job and hadn't talked to many foreigners yet. After we arrived at the hotel, the other receptionist told me I had a message from my friend who had already checked out and was gone. I was shocked and I didn't understand what had happened. She handed me the message and it read, "Go to the King's picture, passport." You have to remember it was 2008 and there were no smartphones nor WhatsApp, so this was a message he had given to the receptionist on the phone. I went back to my room, put my stuff in the backpack, went back to the reception, handed my key and asked for my passport. This is when the girl gave me 2 passports, mine and Pat's. I said goodbye to Pim and took her picture, but it turned out blurry because she was too shy, and when I took it, she was turning her face to turn back. I headed to the beach and I started walking to what I thought was the right direction. Finally, I saw the King's picture and Pat sitting next to it. When he saw me, he ran to me, and before I could say anything, he nervously asked, "Do you have my passport?" I said yes and handed it to him. He hugged me and said, "Now I know I can trust you with my life." I didn't understand what had happened. Of course, I was going to give him his passport back anyway. I asked him why he was so nervous, and he said he thought the ladyboy had stolen his passport. He explained that it was common for the passports from Canadian, American and some European citizens to be stolen, and that most of the time it was by ladyboys. I still didn't understand what ladyboy. Pim's friend was a thief, and why did he check out so early? So then he explained everything. He said the night before he had taken a girl to the hotel, they did the aerobics and the girl wanted to stay the night. He said she was crazy and very erratic. So in the morning, he decided to take his stuff and left the room while the girl was sleeping. He went to my room to tell me what had happened, but he didn't find me. So he went to the reception to drop the key, and this is when he saw me leaving on the pickup truck with Pim. He yelled my name, but it was too late, so he left the hotel, afraid that his girl was going to wake up and see him. When he was wandering around the city, he realised he had forgotten his passport, so he called back to the hotel, left a message and went to the King's picture to wait for me. After he finished, I was laughing about the fact that he probably didn't want to pay the girl, and this was a real reason he left early. But then I asked again, "I still don't understand who was going to steal your passport." "The ladyboy. I saw you in the car with the ladyboy," he said. "Oh yeah, I wanted to tell you, I met this cute girl and her friends this morning. She invited me to have breakfast. Her name is Pim." I said, Pat looked at me and asked, "And you went to the karaoke place?" I said, "Yes, and we had some food." "Did she ask you?" He asked. I looked at him with open eyes. "How did you know that?" "Because yesterday she did the same with me. In the morning, I went to your room to have breakfast, but you didn't answer. So I went downstairs to eat by myself, and I saw the ladyboy there, and she invited me to go to the karaoke place. And when we arrived, she fed me." I smiled and said, "Well, there was a ladyboy in the group, but the cute girl was the one who fed me. I barely talked to the ladyboy. She just sang some songs." Then, with a straight face, Pat said, "Yes, I know. I also went with a cute girl. Dave, the cute girl was a ladyboy." I was speechless. I believed Pat's words, but I just couldn't believe Pim was a ladyboy. Her voice, her soft hands, her mannerisms, her slim body, everything told me she was a girl. I was shocked. I was sure Pat must have been confused. After a few seconds of silence, and Pat looking at me with an expression of, "Yeah man, I know," I still couldn't believe it. So I took out my camera and I showed Pat the picture of Pim. Her face was blurry, but he said, "Yep, that's her. That's the girl who fed me yesterday." My eyes were blank, but then all of a sudden, I had a smile of relief on my face. I just realised that I had been lucky because I never tried to kiss her or anything else. After I regained my composure back, Pat continued, "After I checked out, I started thinking they had taken you on the car, and I got worried about them trying to steal our passports, because yesterday they told me they have been working at this place for only a few weeks." And then he went on to tell me a few stories about people whose passports had been stolen before. I listened to him in silence but didn't pay too much attention. I still couldn't believe Pim wasn't a girl. We took the bus back to Bangkok. After we arrived, we said our goodbyes, and this would be the last time I would see Pat. I left feeling very happy. I had met this Canadian guy and having a story I would remember for the rest of my life. And it all started because my bus broke down in Cambodia. That was bugging me. I was wondering why Pat hadn't told me before that he had gone to have breakfast with Pim on Saturday morning, and all I could think was that he was ashamed to tell me a ladyboy had fed him. I was also wondering how he had found out she was a ladyboy. Maybe that's the real reason He was ashamed, haha. Okay, what a great story. It just shows you, though, how the times change. You know, in that story, he said, we gave our passports to the receptionist and she put them in this the reception safe. I mean, you just wouldn't do it these days. You know, if anybody ever asks for your passport, of course, if you check into a hotel, you have to give your passport because they need to see, obviously, your picture page, and they also need to see that you've got a valid visa. They photocopy that and they register it with the police, believe it or not, every guest that checks in. But that's what they used to do. They used to keep your passports, but you'd never give your passport to anybody now. Now, the thing with the ladyboys, I don't know, I've never had a problem, you know, even from day one. I can remember years ago when I first came here, they just stood out. I could tell the difference. But, you know, I wasn't around them areas too much in those days. So, you know, maybe, I don't know. But it's never been an issue for me not being able to tell a ladyboy. But it obviously is, because when I run the ladyboy competitions on the live streams, a lot of people do get tripped up. But it's a lot easier in person. All right, let's get into our second story now. Hi Peter, my name is Jake. I've been watching your videos for about 3 years and I was finally able to make it to Thailand. I was there in February of this year, 2023. The first week I stayed in Bangkok at a relatively cheap hotel near Nana. I love the location, but the beds are the hardest I've ever slept on. I spent my second week in Pattaya. I stayed at the Hilton on Beach Road, a very nice one. It was the actual week of my birthday, so I wanted to go all out. I was so excited, especially after going from the older hotel and now staying in the Hilton. So to Beach Road I went, looking for a freelancer to spend my birthday with. I walked up and down a couple of times. I wanted her to spend the night and join me for breakfast in the morning. I also wanted her to come to the swimming pool with me the next day. I finally found one who was willing to do long time, but we'll call her M. I sold her on breakfast and swimming in the pool. She took my offer of a 2,000 baht tip. M was 28 years old and had a very innocent vibe about her. I offered to go to 7-Eleven to get some snacks because we were not coming back out. It was only about 8 o'clock at night. She asked if she could buy a couple of beers, then asked if she can buy a couple of more beers. There are many tents in front of the Hilton selling clothes, so we stopped there to get a bathing suit for M. We got the bathing suit. The next thing, she was looking at a table of jewellery. Did she really think that I was going to buy her some jewellery as well? I just stepped away from her and acted like I wasn't even with her. She got the hint, but she tried anyway. When we got to my room, she takes off her dress that she's wearing short pants and a small shirt, revealing tattoos all over her body. I asked her, were you a go-go dancer? She said no. I'm not into tattoos like that, but I'll make the best of it. I'm playing music on a Bluetooth speaker that I brought with me. We danced around having a good time and she's drinking those beers. M takes a bath, then I take a shower, and then we get into the aerobics. The aerobics were pretty good. Then a strange thing happened. She puts me on my back until she is satisfied. Usually these girls are just acting, be it very good acting, but I never had one enjoy it to the extent to the point of the real thing. Then she gets off me and lies back in bed like it's all over. I asked her to continue, but she acted annoyed, said maybe later. At this point, I said, wait a minute to myself, I should be charging her. She starts drinking the last beer and dancing around. Now it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. I asked her to turn the music down because it's late and I did not want to get kicked out of this hotel on my first night. She refused, so I turned it down. M is acting even more strange. She's almost like she's having two personalities. 1 minute she's happy and in the next minute she seems sad. Then she had a louder outburst, yelling something out loud like she was talking to someone that wasn't even there. I thought to myself, I'm in for a long night. I asked her if everything is okay. She says, yeah, everything is okay. Then she did it again. I said, look, I'm hungry. We have to go out and get something to eat. I had to get her out of the hotel by any means necessary. She said, I'll stay. I said, no, I'm responsible for you in this hotel, so you have to come with me. I said, bring all your stuff. She says, I want to leave it. I said, no, because I don't trust this hotel. Somebody might come in here and take it. I can't tell you how happy I was to get her out of the hotel. I made sure I paid her before we got outside, and my plan was to leave her outside, but she staggered all over the place. She could hardly walk. I realised I just couldn't leave her because if something happened to her, I would probably be blamed for it. So we're walking down Beach Road around Soi 8 and stopped at a bar. I bought her some food from a street cart and got some water for us to drink. At this point, I ran into a couple of Americans. Oh yeah, I'm from the States. We were happy to see one another and we started chatting. I said to myself, this is perfect. I'm going to try and talk to these guys as long as I can. It's now about 1:30 a.m. After a while of talking, they said, I see you got that lady with you. Don't let us stop you from doing what you want to do. I said, believe me, you're not stopping anything. Let's just talk. I was hoping she would just get tired and go home after she'd sobered up a bit. Then Em comes over to me and hugs me and says, can we just go back to the hotel now, please? I wanted to tell her to go home, but I didn't want her to get upset for losing face. I said to myself, I can't believe I'm going to bring this girl back to my room. My hopes got up a little bit because I noticed she was walking much better. As soon as we made it back to the room, I poured out the rest of the last beer. I'm sleeping in bed, then I heard a noise. It was a sound of a bottle of beer being opened. I said, what are you doing? She says, just a little bit, I'm not going to drink that much. She had found the beers in the fridge in the room. When she went to the bathroom, I jumped out of bed, poured the beer out and went to the fridge to hide the other beers. She comes out the bathroom asking, what was all that noise? I said, let's just go to sleep, okay? She gets in the bed and we go to sleep. I heard noises throughout the night. I would pop up thinking, what is she doing now? I wake up about 9:30 a.m. I'm thinking, how can I get rid of her? I'm not taking her to breakfast and definitely not bringing her to the pool. Then I realised she's a Thai girl, she's going to sleep all day. At 11:30, she was still sleeping. I woke her up even though she didn't want to get up. Then she said the magic words, I'll just go home now. These words made me so happy for my birthday and I was so thankful. And just like that, she grabbed her stuff and left. I think she is bipolar or something. I did get lucky later that night and found another freelancer who was prettier and such a sweetheart and made my birthday a success after all. Yeah, it is a fact of life, you know, with these girls. A lot of them do become alcoholics and it's no surprise. You know, they start off in the bars fairly young. They come down from up country, maybe they're in their sort of early 20s. They weren't really drinkers, but you know, they're kind of coaxed into drinking lots of drinks because each drink they drink, the bar makes money, she makes a little bit of money. So the people, the mama-sans and the managers, they really encourage these girls to drink. You know, she's sitting with the guy and the guy drinks 10 beers and he offers her 10 drinks. Basically, she's got to take them. I mean, there's a lot of chat about drinks being watered down and all that sort of thing, but you can only water down a drink so much. They're not so stupid to serve the girl, for instance, a tequila, but it's actually nothing but water. What they might do is maybe fill it most of the way up with water and then maybe just a splash of tequila, because a lot of guys, when it comes to the table, they'll smell it and that tequila on the top of the water will give that effect of the alcohol, so the guy believes it's a real drink. But what happens, they go from the bars, some of them work in go-go bars, and they just drink every single night, a lot of alcohol. They become accustomed to it, their bodies adjust to it. And then, you know, when they're too old to work in the bars or they have problems, they go out on the street. They're freelancers, and this is what happens. And you can see from this story that, you know, the thing is, she just, alcohol was so important to her. That's what she wanted. She just wanted to drink. Waited till he was asleep, got up and raided the fridge. Quite sad, really, because you don't know how their lives ended up. But it's just the way it is down there. Well, all over Thailand, really. The other thing I'd say on this story is, I've said many times, you know, guys do go for freelancers. There's no bar fine, there's no ladies' drinks, but you are taking your chances. There's no comeback. At least the girls in the bar, there is a little bit of comeback. You can always go back to that bar and lodge a complaint. Whether they'll do anything about it, I don't know. But sometimes they will, I guess. Right, okay. Let's go into the third story. This is, as I said at the beginning of the video, this is very short, so I'll just read it out. Last year was my first trip to Thailand and I loved it. I had many adventures in my 2 weeks there, and the uploaded story is the main experience. However, there is a short story I will also share. I was staying at Terminal 21 in December 2022. I'd been to Therme Cafe and Soy Cowboy. Crazy House has become my go-to go-go bar, and I have a favourite mama-san there. It really does pay to have one mama-san looking out for you. More on that another time. Late one night, I'd gone out with a normal Thai girl to dinner. There were no after-dinner aerobics included. Back at the hotel, it was kind of late to go to a go-go bar, and Therme Cafe was closing in an hour. I decided to walk down to the cafe anyway and try my luck. On the way there, I walked by a girl who caught my eye. I stopped and started chatting with her. I asked her if she was a ladyboy and she said no. So we went back to my hotel. She checked her ID at the front desk and we went to my room. We had a drink and she told me she was LGBTQ. I didn't understand. So she said, I have a little elephant. Now this, I did understand. I told her, I asked if she was a ladyboy on the street and she'd said no. She explained that she wasn't a ladyboy. Ladyboys are more flamboyant and wear a lot of makeup. She was a girl. I wish the front desk clerk who had taken her ID had said something to me. I was ready to send her on her way. A very small part of me was attracted to a male friend back home. I'm not attracted to men, but this one friend makes me wonder sometimes. So I let her stay for 30 minutes. I experimented without seeing her little elephant. Since coming back home, I have not been attracted to my male friend anymore. I was able to experiment a little in Thailand and probably saved me from making a fool of my lonely self back home. Anyway, that's it for newcomers to Thailand. Just remember that some ladyboys consider themselves girls but are still intact. So there you go, a bit of a ladyboy theme this week. A lot of guys watching this now who are coming to Thailand are going to be quite worried. Don't be. It's normally quite easy to tell the difference. I don't know what's going on with these stories, but there you go. I hope you enjoyed the stories. As always, there'll be more next Saturday. And as I say every week, if you're sitting on a story, send it in. I'll change names. It'll be totally anonymous and I can read it out one Saturday. You can hear your story. Okay, thanks for listening, guys, and I'll see you real soon.